Okay, so we're up to version 3 of DSx2. I've added a new theme. The theme's called Cafe, which was inspired by a request for more favourite buttons, in particular from somebody there in the cafe, so that's why I've called it Cafe. So I'll go through and show that theme to you, and we'll run through most of the DSx2 functions while we're at it. Okay, so I tap on the heading bar. That's how we open the DSx2 settings, and in here we've got a new button called Switch to Cafe Theme. So I'll tap on that. That'll prompt us to exit the app, and then we'll need to restart it. Okay, so now that we've restarted the app and it's connected, we'll tap on the heading bar again, open that menu, and we'll just run through the options here. So that button now has changed to switch to original theme, so you can tap that, go back to the original theme, and we're showing the original colour here. So we can change the colour theme as well. So the second button down is colour theme is set to default. So if I tap on that button, it'll give me some options. I'm going to select Dark Cafe. This is a new colour theme, that's a new dark theme I've made for the skin that I'm going to use for the time being. So again, we exit the app and need to restart it. Okay, so we're connected up. Now let's go back to the settings again. The top button is toggle heading, so we've got 3 states. At the moment, this is the default look. The heading bar has actually got a bit of a fine line where the title is above the thinner bar. So if I tap that, it makes that disappear. It's a very subtle change, but there is a difference between those two. If I tap it again, it hides the whole heading bar, moves the heading title down, and puts the 3 dots up to the top. 3 dots indicate that it's a button, so that you can open the skin settings menu. Okay, so if I didn't want a heading at all, I would just tap on the title and clear that out, and then it would just leave it blank, and it would have no heading. So I'll set it back to the way I intend to use it. Okay, so colour theme is now set to Dark Cafe, which we showed earlier. We've got skin icon calibration. Now this is important. If you've not set this up before, you need to tap on that button and you need to adjust it so that star is within that, perfectly within that square. I've gone up at 0.01 here increment, and the star is just very slightly protruding past the square, so that's too far. So I need to go back to where it's right on the edge. If I go down here, it's on some places there's a very slight gap. So when we get that calibrated right, what that does is set up the icons and the machine image over on the right hand side, sets all that up to the right size for your display. Unfortunately, Android tablets, they render font vectors differently, so you can have one brand or render a different size to another brand. So this is why I've got this calibration here. So once that's calibrated, we can just tap that button again and hide that. Tap the wrong button. The next button was the flow calibration, so that was the screen we just flicked to, so I'll just show you again. That now directs to the new app plugin, graphical flow calibrator, and this plugin now is available to any skin. It's just that DSx2 has a direct link to it, and this is pretty straightforward to use. You just adjust up and down so that your blue and brown lines match, and set a calibration accordingly. So I'll just exit out of there. Switch to original theme, we've been through that, and then we've got a close button which will close off the menu, or you can tap on the heading bar again or close this menu also. Okay, so let's go through and have a look at the favourites, because that's where the biggest difference is here. If we tap on that settings menu again, we've got on the bottom there we've got favourite buttons, and we can set it plus or minus, and it's currently showing 1. So if I tap on the plus, it adds another button, and we can just keep adding buttons until we reach how many we want. Once we get to 10 buttons, when we add more, it'll start incrementing in lots of 5, and it'll also add some controls to the side. So on the right are those 10 favourite buttons. We've got an up and down arrow, and those arrows can be used to scroll through the list of favourites. So I'll just increase that up to say 50. Now when I scroll through, you can see it's showing 10 at a time. It's showing 6 to 15, 11 to 20, and so forth, and we can show up to 41 to 50. You can add as many favourites as you like, but just be aware that the more favourites you have, the slower it will be to build them, and slower to scroll through them. Okay, so I don't use many favourites. Actually, I only use one, so I'm going to leave it. I'll leave it at 2 at the moment, because we need to set up. I'll set it at 3 because we need to set up a favourite button for demonstration here. Okay, then we've got show weight curve. That just adds the total weight curve to your graph. Normally you've got a weight flow rate curve. If you show the weight curve, it shows a cumulative weight curve. And then we've got the show history button, but that button's greyed out, so it hasn't got an option. That button's used on the original theme. The history button on this theme is up in the top left hand corner. It's just displayed as history. It's on the heading bar there, and that you can't hide that button. It's permanently there. So if I close out now, if you tap on that button, it'll bring up DSx2 history viewer. Can exit out of that, and if you long press, it'll bring up the app's history viewer. Unfortunately, it's a little bit buggy, doesn't work too well, doesn't look too good, so I don't use that, but it's there if that's what you're familiar with. Okay, so with DSx2 history viewer, down the bottom we've got our history running from left to right, top to bottom, showing most recent shots. And then to the right of those mini graphs, we've got a scroll button for up and down, so we can scroll. That was showing 1 to 10, now it's showing 6 to 15, 11 to 20, and so forth. So I'll go back to the most recent here. At the moment I've got it showing, the top graph is showing as one full graph. If I tap that graph, it'll split it into two graphs. So we've got left and right. When you tap on the icons down the bottom, or the smaller graphs down the bottom, tapping on the left hand side will load it to the left graph, and tapping to the right hand side will load it to the right graph. So here you can compare two different curves. Say for instance I want to compare this one over to the right and this one over on the left graph. I would tap them like that, and you can see a colour indication there. We've got brown and red information under the graph, and the same colours respectively under the little icon graphs. Now if I tap either one of those left or right graphs, it'll enlarge back to the single graph, and it'll do an overlay of that left and right. So here you've got left as the thicker curves and right as the thinner curves, and up the top you've got the normal keys that DSx2 uses, with additional of clear left and clear right. So I can tap on clear right and that'll just show the left graph, or I can clear both if I want to. So that's pretty much it for the history viewer. All the keys work the same, and I'll go through that on the main graph a little bit later. So we'll get back to the favourite buttons. To set up a favourite button, what you need to do is first set up all your machine settings, or all your function settings. So you need to set up your espresso settings, your flush settings, your steam settings, and your water settings. And the way that we do that is you can go into the settings, but you can go into the app settings by tapping on the machine icon here where the tick is, and we can go into the preset. We can select the profile. Say for instance we select the default profile. Another way to do it is go to our workflow menu, which is DSx2's workflow setup page now, for this theme anyway, not for the original. So if I tap on those machine buttons, any one of those machine buttons, it'll open the workflow setup page, and it's a little bit different to the original DSx2 where it has individual menus for each function. This one displays all the settings all on one page. So anything on this page saves to favourites, except for the under steam we've got the milk jug setup and steam by weight setup. They're a one-time setting to set up for steam by weight. They don't actually save to favourite, but the steam settings, flush settings, water and coffee settings all save to the favourite button. So we can set up, we can access the profile directly from here. So under coffee we've got profile and we've got default. So if I tap on default, it'll go to our presets list, and if I OK out there, go back to that menu again. If I long press on it, it'll take us to the profile setup page. Underneath that we've got profile type, so that's set to espresso. With advanced profiles you can change the profile type. The advantage there is just puts them in different categories. Some categories like test or cleaning don't save to the history graphs on here, so those little graphs I showed underneath, they won't save or update, or the main the graph on the main screen here always reverts back to the last shot, and if the last shot was a cleaning shot, it won't retain that information. It will go back to the last espresso graph. Okay, so underneath that we've got beans. Beans isn't really a profile setting as such, but it's used to work out extraction ratio. So the stop at weight or stop at volume, if you haven't got a scale, you'd be stopping volume. So whatever that stop weight is, you can work out what your extraction ratio is going to be. So in this case we've got 18 grams in and 36 grams. It's going to stop us at 36 grams, which gives us a 1 to 2 ratio. So in this case I usually go for a higher ratio, mainly because I use pure water or reverse osmosis water, so it doesn't have any alkalinity to it, so it's got nothing in there to neutralise acids or buffer acids, whereas people that might use normal tap water or some barista recipe water, they'll have some alkalinity and generally pull a shorter ratio than what I would. So I usually pull about a 1 to 2.6, 1 to 2.7 ratio, so I can change my stop at weight here. When I adjust that stop at weight, you see the X and the tick pop up. So if I want to cancel out of that, I tap the X and you can see it's gone back. If I want to save my changes to the profile, I would tap the tick and that would set my my new ratio. Okay, so underneath that we've got dosing cup. What dosing cup is, it sets a weight for your dosing cup. So the way I weigh out my beans is I weigh out 18 grams. I stick my cup that I count my beans into onto the scale. Down the bottom right hand side you've got a scale reading there. You can see it's 18.9 grams. If I tap on that, that'll tear. Now I scoop out my beans into that cup, so I'll just do that for demonstration here. So if I start scooping in my beans, you can see the weight going up because I don't remove that cup. And I scoop out to my 18 grams and that's my dose. My dose doesn't change. I have a set dose for the basket for minimum headspace, so it's always the same. If I use a different basket I might change the dose, so in this case I always leave it at 18 grams. If you do it in a different way, so some people take their container off the scale and fill the beans in, then put it back on the scale to weigh. So if you do it, if your work flows like that, you could set a dose cup weight. So I've set my cup on the scale, it's showing 20.1 grams. If I tap on, I'll just take that off and make sure I'm zeroed. Okay. If I tap on the dose cup weight, it'll set that to the weight of my cup, 21 grams. Now if I exit out of here, I'll just tear that scale. Now I'll put my cup on there, it weighs 20 grams. Now when I scoop my beans in, you can see above the weight it shows a net weight. So you can see I've got 13.8, 16.9 grams. Okay, so I've got 17.2 grams. Now if I tap the beans on the left of that, that'll set my dose weight to that net weight. So I tap those beans and we can see up the top under the profile title where our coffee data is, we can see that's now set to 17.1 grams. Similar, if we went back into that workflow menu, you can see it's set to 17.1 grams. We can of course change our setting using these buttons, and with these buttons that's changing 0.1 gram at a time. Most of these buttons have a long tap feature, or long press feature. So if I long press on that plus, it'll change by a full gram, and same with the like the stopper weight. If I long press it would change by 10 grams. Short press would be by 1 gram. So I long press that, go back to 18. Okay, so that's why you would set a dose cup. In my case I leave the cup on there. So I just want my scale to be zero with the cup on, so I just take that out. I don't use a net weight. And so one of the things, the reasons you would have a net weight is on the homes page. If I tear that scale with some weight on, so that's now zero with the cup on, I'm going to lift that cup off and you'll see the scale briefly go to a negative figure, and then it'll automatically tear to zero. So if I was weighing my beans out there and I was taking my cup off to put the beans in every time, it would mess up my weight because it keep returning back to zero. So that's the purpose of the dosing cup setting. Okay. Beside the dosing cup setting, we've got a orange information symbol, and tapping on that symbol will give you a brief description of what I've tried to explain there. And you'll see another one down by the steam by weight, so you can tap on that one and it'll pop up information of how to set that up. Okay, so the next menu is flush. Pretty straightforward. You can adjust the flow rate for the flush and the flush timer. So I only run mine for 3 seconds. After every time I pull an espresso, I flush for 3 seconds and then wipe the screen with a damp cloth. Steam settings. So the steam heater can be either on or off. So if you're setting up a favourite, it's going to be for a coffee that doesn't use milk. and you mainly don't use milk, you might turn that off. That way your steam heater's not turning on all the time. And you can set that different for different favourites. So if you mainly make filter coffee, but you make a latte now and then, and you've got latte on a favourite button, you would turn that on for your latte, and then when you select that from the favourite list, your heater will automatically come back on. Steam timer, you can manually change the steam timer. I don't worry about that because that timer gets set when I weigh my milk jug with the steam by weight feature. Okay, so for that feature to work, we need to first set up the weight of our empty milk jugs. I've allowed for 3 milk jugs, a small, medium, large, and you can see at the moment milk jug is showing as medium. If I tap on that medium, it changes it to large and to small. Medium is the one I use just about all the time, so I'll leave it selected to medium. Okay, now to set up your milk jug weights, just tear your scale. So I just tap that scale reading that's down the bottom there. I'm going to stick my milk jug on the scale. You can see it's 158.5 grams and it's currently set to 158.2. So if I long tap on that, so if I tap it, it'll give me a message saying that I need to long tap. I've set this as a long tap because they're things that you don't want to change by mistake by tapping. So once you've set them up, they stay the same. So a long tap, and that's changed it to my new weight of 158.5 grams. And you just repeat that process for the other 2 jugs. Okay, so underneath that we've got steam by weight set up. The information button next to it goes through the 3 steps to set that up. Basically what you do is weigh out some milk and record that weight. So I weighed out 180 grams of milk and I set that in there. To set that in there, you can just put your milk on the scale and tap the scale button to set that weight. The next setting is the steam time. So basically you put a thermometer in your milk, you steam it up to your desired temperature, so it's whatever it is, 62 degrees C is about where I have it. You then find out how long it took to steam that, which will show on the steam page, and then you add that steam time in there. And once you've set that up, generally don't have to change it. You may find sometimes with a change of season, you might extend the time in colder seasons, and you might take a second or 2 off in the warmer months. Anyway, once that's set, you don't have to worry about that. So the next setting we've got is water. Water is something I never use, but if you're making a long black or Americano or something like that, or you just want to dispense water, you can set your water settings here: flow rate, temperature, volume. In this case it's showing grams because I've got a scale. If you don't have a scale, you have volume. And we've got volume offset. So what volume offset is it's just a correction. So if you set it to 50 grams, you get 48 out, you can add 2 grams. So next time it'll stop at 50 grams, or vice versa. If you end up with too much, you can set an offset so it corrects it. Okay, so we'll exit out of there. So everything that we've got set in there now is the current settings for the machine and for the app. So whatever those current settings are, we can save to a favourite button. And the way we do that is we long press on one of the favourite buttons. So I long press on button 2, and I can tap on there and give it a new name. Now the names can only be short, they've got to fit on the buttons, but I've given that a new name. I'll tap off so it stays. Now we've got an auto load button. If we look over the right again under our machine information buttons, we've got auto load equals 1. That means my favourite button, number 1, is set to as my auto load button. If I wanted to set this one, I would turn that on, and then when I save it, it will save this button as the auto load button. So it's now changed that to 2. And what auto load is every time we start up the app or wake it from sleep. So say I select profile 1 here, I put the app to sleep, and then I wake it from sleep, and it will automatically load the favourite that was set as the auto load favourite. I'll just change that back because in my case I want to make sure it goes back to the profile and setup that my wife uses, that Chrissy Lee uses, so that things don't go wrong or aren't unexpected when she goes to use the machine. So to do that, I don't want to change any of her settings. So currently it's all set up. You can see it's set up with the default profile, and we'll set up with whatever I saved it, favourite 2. So what I want to do first is load favourite 1, then I want to long tap it, then I select the auto and save, and now that's set that button back to the auto load button. Okay, so that's pretty much it for favourites and how they work. I'll just set that back to 1. I only use one profile, so I'll just leave it like that. We'll have a look at the graph, how that works. When we tap on the graph, we've got those mini graphs down the bottom, and they're the previous 5 graphs. The previous graph is showing, and then the one before that, left to right underneath. So you can tap it on any one of those and it'll overlay it, so you can see what has been changing over time or over the last 5 days. You can tap the same graph again, it'll clear it, or you can tap the big graph and close it off and clear it. Okay, so these graph key buttons are also a double tap button. If you tap the button, it hides that curve or toggles the curve, hides shows. If you long press on it, it isolates the curve, so it hides all the other curves and just shows that one curve, so you can see just pressure showing. And that'll work the same if you've got an overlay. So if I was overlaying that, the overlay shows. Okay, and the others work the same, so that's flow only, and tap any of the keys to return it. Okay, temperature is a little bit different. It does the same thing. We toggle temperature on, but when we isolate it, it actually zooms in, so it gives you a more detailed view. Okay, then we've got steps. Steps are just there's vertical lines showing when the profile changes steps. We've got our goal curves, so we've got the dashed line or broken line, which indicates what the machine's trying to do or what its goal is. Then we've got Y2 axes, so we can toggle between single or double Y axes. When it's in the double or 2 Y axis view, your weight flow and your volume flow show on the right hand axis, and they show at twice the scale. So you can see that those change there. Steam will show you last steam graph. If you're trying to sort out some issues with steam or you're curious of how it went, steam graph disappears once steam's finished, but you can go back and look at your last steam by tapping that button there. Okay, so all those keys in the history viewer, all those keys do the same thing. So if I was to display 2 graphs here like this, and I just want to compare the pressure, you can isolate them like that, turn the steps off. So it's exactly the same. You can also show the goal. You can't show the goal while you're showing 2 curves. So, and then you've got additional buttons on the history viewer to clear left and right. So anyway, legs out of that. So that's covered the graph. Okay, the steam by weight, how that works from here on the home page is, I'll just grab my jug with some water in it. Okay, so I've got my jug here, I've just got some water in for demonstration, and I'm going to sit on the scale. So the scale's tared, need to make sure it is zeroed first. I'll sit my jug on there, and you can see that it's come up with a net weight of 137 grams above the gross weight there. And I can look up at my steam button, and you can see the steam flow rate is set to 0.8 mils per second. Temperature set to 176 degrees C. That's the current temperature. And the timer is currently set for 31 seconds, and there's an M there. M indicates I'm using them. I've got it set for the medium jug. So I would need to change that if I was using a different jug. And the way I would change that, go into that workflow menu and just toggle it. So by having that correct jug set, that gives us the correct net weight. So we've got a net weight of 137 grams. If I tap the steam timer icon on the right hand side of that scale, it says steam timer set, and you can see now that the time's changed to 26 seconds. So it's calculated the time that will take to steam that to my desired temperature of whatever it was, 62 degrees C, I think. Okay, so that's how I do it. Every time I go to steam milk, I just sit, make sure it's zeroed. I sit my milk jug on there, tap that button, my timer's ready to go. I press steam and start steaming. Okay, so I'm just going to let that run down so you can see what happens when I get to the end. Okay, so once the timer ends, it just says waiting to purge. So the machine's doing small puffs just to make sure this will help reduce the amount of milk that could suck back up. It's a good idea to remove your jug from the wand immediately, save any milk getting in there. So if we tap on that machine, or we can tap the purge button at the top, either or, and that'll do the final purge and go back to the idle stage. Okay, so same for the other functions. If we use the flush, it's going to flush for 3 seconds. Let's put a jug under there to catch it. You've got a stop button. You can tap the machine icon or the stop button to stop it, or you can let the timer run out. Okay, that's about it. Just one other thing, the power button is a double function button, so we don't have that intermediate screen anymore, or you do on the original, not on this cafe theme. On the cafe theme, tapping the button goes to screensaver to sleep straight away, and long press exits the app. So long press and exits the app. Okay, if you have any questions or any other suggestions, let us know in the comments. Cheers.